I have something you might want to know about.
A half an ounce of platinum for sale. A U.S. Mint Platinum Half Eagle. These carry a high premium over spot price.
Give me a shout at RidleyReport.com if you're interested in buying this.
I think significant revolution, especially the philosophic revolutions, will occur with young people. I don't think it'll be all the young people, because some people criticize me for, praising the young people on the campuses, and then they'll point out some of the other things campus people do, and they say, oh no, they're just like all the rest, they don't care, and all this. And I said, well, really, on the long run, you will have to have a significant number. You can't do it without young people. You can have great ideas and great philosophy, and you can be moving along, but if you don't energize the next generation, the enthusiasm won't be there. If you think about it, whether it's a revolution in Iran or in China or wherever, where they're trying to rise up and go against the government, the young people are there. So I am really very, very pleased with what has happened over the last couple of years. The energy that comes from the young people and those who have been with us all along and have understood these issues. And believe me, it is much, much bigger than I had ever dreamed. And you know what I think? I think it's only the beginning. I think it's going to get a lot bigger. I have to say that Jeff Frazee with the Young Americans for Liberty has done a tremendous job on the campuses. And we're seeing some changes in the elections going around on the country. There's not a whole lot of purity in politics. And it is at times messy business. But overall, the only thing that really counts is not the messiness in politics. What counts is the purity of your heart and your understanding, because it is the attitude and the understanding and the will of the people. We actually do get the government we deserve and what the prevailing attitudes are. And the prevailing attitude today is still, Keynesian economics. But that's what we're going to change. We're going to change the prevailing attitude to that of free market economics. Now, does that mean, that we're going to have to get everybody in Washington converted? No, most people are always going to be political in Washington. But being political might mean they might want to stay in office. And maybe they'll have to come our way in order to stay in office. I think we've had a great example of how an attitude by the people and pressure from people like you on your members of the members of Congress, and that is getting the support behind auditing the Fed. The other night when Rand and I were on Anderson Cooper, they did a longer interview, but they cut out some things that they didn't want, and I sort of liked, because the discussion was really on Birch Bayh, or Evan Bayh, leaving, and how terrible that was, and that the only way you can get anything done in Washington is if you compromise. I said, no, I disagree with that. I said, the problem is nobody stands for anything in Washington. They're always compromising. But I said, there's nothing wrong with bipartisanship. And then I use the example of transparency in government, the transparency of the Federal Reserve, sound money, civil liberties, a sensible foreign policy. And all these things that we talk about, I really am convinced it will be pervasive enough to influence both parties, all the parties. Because Keynesianism, like Nixon told us, we're all Keynesians now. But that now has changed, Benny. And why up on the Hill, they still think in those terms. That's why, you know, they created a monster of a crisis for us. They spend too much deficits, they print too much, and regulate too much. They have a calamity that the Austrian economists predicted. It happens. So what do they do over there on the Hill? They go and they say, okay, we need to spend more money. We need lower interest rates. We need greater deficits. We need more regulations of the system. I mean, that's where they are. But we're sneaking up on them, and we are going to have an influence. So I think there's every reason to be concerned, but also to be optimistic. I am quite certain that we are in the middle of something much bigger than a lot of us ever dreamed would happen. We knew it would have to come, but just when was the question. And today I see things moving quite rapidly. Economically, it's going to move rapidly, and the judge mentioned a few things about what's going on with our civil liberties and these atrocious things that our government is doing now, you know, with the lack of respect for habeas corpus and torture and assassination. This is dangerous. This is dangerous. And, oh yes, they'll say, oh, these are bad guys and there's only 3 on the list. But those 3, they say, are a threat. But what happens when they broaden the definition of those guys being a threat? That is why it is vital. That is why there is more responsibility for every one of you in this audience, because you came here for a special reason. For the majority of the people in any country ever never really get that interested in it. They go along and they drift along and they don't get involved. But once you understand the truth, I believe you have a greater moral obligation to act on that. You are inquisitive enough. You are inquisitive enough to seek the truth, and you're finding it, and we'll continue to find it, and we have to continue to educate ourselves, and we have to continue to energize each other. I get a lot of people say, you've energized me and you've removed my apathy and all this, but it's a two-way street, believe me. If I had no responsive and no interest at all, you know, I would probably still be over talking to an empty chamber, but I would persist. But let me tell you, the enthusiasm is there. It is in this country. I am delighted you're here this evening. I'm delighted you're here for the weekend, and I hope something very good can come out of this convention this week. Thank you very much.
This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by the Ridley Report.